know what I really have to do is get like a mount for the car so that I don't have to drive and like bounce this all around. So I have a concept that's a little bit fresh in my head because me and a buddy of mine were just talking. We were cruising around in his Camaro and we were just chatting today and stuff. So I figured I'd share it with you. So put on your thinking caps. This is one of those ones where it's kind of like conceptual theoryism, whatever you call it. So we were talking about how all the garbage on TV and such, in terms of it's very fear-based. It's very downtrodden, and it's you turn on the TV, you turn on the news, and it's all the negative stuff going on around the world, and all the really, really bad shit that's taking place. And he was telling me that he almost just threw his TV out. If it weren't for his video games, he would have thrown his TV out due to the fact that he doesn't need it anymore, because he doesn't want to watch TV anymore. And I was like, well, I haven't watched TV in almost 10 years. So, we were talking about why that is. So I have this theory of why this is, and if you guys haven't heard about any of these theories before, maybe you're just going to think I'm nuts. But, so this is the theory. If you take a look at some of the newer sciences that are coming out and such, it's saying that we are essentially beings of frequency, beings of light, right? And that we inhabit these bodies, and that everything in this world is just different levels of frequency or vibration, okay? You can't even see me. Look at that. It's look at that. It's Jesus right there. So the thought behind it is that everything vibrates at different frequencies. So stuff that vibrates extremely slowly in terms of matter would be like solid objects. Things that vibrate very fast would be like water and light and all that. So if indeed we are light beings, which it seems to be that we are vibrational light beings, if you tie that into dimensional theory and such, we're in the third density or the third dimension, which is a very heavy dimension, and to exist down here we need to be a very low frequency ourselves. Therefore, the higher you go ascension-wise, the closer you would get to the higher dimensions, being 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and on. So that would also explain why those of us who are more spiritually awakened, like myself, have the abilities to see things that others do not, and are in touch with certain abilities with ourselves that are not so-called common and typical for this third density reality. I myself have seen, I suppose, what you could call ghosts, or certain light beings, or jinn, some darker things as well. I've seen in my life at different moments and such. So if you were to look at me as if I am one of the people out there who just happens to be more spiritually awakened, then I would be one of those ones who is vibrating as a being a little bit higher than some of the others around me. So when you look at wavelengths and you look at frequencies, you end up finding out that the higher you vibrate, a lot of it comes with emotion. So an emotional response to things causes a different vibrational frequency to be emitted from you, right? So if we go on that, hold on, I forgot where I am. Josh forgot where he is. I legit don't even know where I am. That'll work. We'll go this way. We'll go this way. We're going this way. So anyways, if you look at it like that, in your emotions, the response is the different vibrational outputs that you have, and the closer you get to higher vibrational frequencies, the closer you are to ascending, or being able to operate in higher dimensions. Well, when you look at the emotional spectrum, the higher the frequency, the more joyous you're feeling, the more happiness and elation that you're feeling. And there's actually a graph about this. I mean, it's not very hard to find. You can just use Google to find it, about like the emotional response and spectrums and such of frequencies that you're emitting. So if the higher ones are joy and happiness and elation, well, then the lower ones are well, the absolute lowest is everything you can go down in that spectrum to fear. I'm pretty sure fear is the absolute bottom emotion. Now let's pretend for a second that those in power, all right, some of those in power, and we can liken them to oppressors, right? If they wanted to, for some reason, to keep the public dumbed down and to keep the public in like a sludge where we have a lot of trouble moving forward, what would be being done? Well, they would probably be causing the emotional response within us to elicit the absolute lowest vibrational response emotionally that they can get, which would make sense why a lot of the mass media and a lot of what is portrayed in the news has everything to do with fear. Now, if you can cause an emotional response of fear within somebody, what do? They're not expressive, they're not expansive, they're not moving on with their life. They're stuck. They're what is it called? They're very withdrawn. They're very afraid to move, right? The more fearful you can have somebody, the easier it is to rule over them, right? We have a ton of problems in this country, and there's a lot of people who are afraid to even walk down the street because they think that they're going to get mugged, or they can't send their kids out for trick-or-treating because they're going to get abducted and like all that shit. And you know what? Truth of the matter is, it's possible. It is. Everything that you're worried about is utterly possible. I'm not going to tell you it's not, but I'm also going to tell you that that's not living life if you're going to be fearful of all of that. And I understand you have to be smart about the areas that you're in, but let's get back to the topic. So if you wanted to control a people, you would want them to be in a perpetual fear emotional response to their world, so that they're too much stuck in the mud to, first off, make changes about it, but to second, be able to rise or to ascend. Going back to the thoughts that we are actually highly, we are spiritual beings, and we're having this human experience. Well, if indeed we are those light beings and spiritual entities, then we would be wanting to rise in the dimensional, the different dimensions. We would be wanting to rise through them. I just realized I'm filming my steering wheel. So, if you wanted to keep a people from realizing who they truly are and what they're truly capable of, which is essentially, we probably have tons of abilities that we are far from versed in. You would keep those abilities from them by creating the most dense reality for them to live in, because the only way to ascend to higher dimensions, which vibrate at higher vibrational frequencies, the only way to get there is to be vibrating at that same frequency, be a match for that dimension with that same frequency. Kind of like how people who are perpetually happy attract happy situations to their lives. People who are perpetually miserable attract miserable situations to their lives, right? Our lives are oftentimes a reflection of who we are inside. I can personally vouch for that. And perception's reality. So, to finish this up, if you wanted to control a people, and let's say that our oppressors are not necessarily just physical entities, like humans. Yes, this is the right place. Are not necessarily just humans, and they're actually spiritual beings. Well, if you were spiritually ascended and you had access to abilities that common people don't, and you wanted to keep those common people down, and the way to ascend is to allow them to grow spiritually, frequency-wise, and all that, to rise out of the third dimensional reality into the higher dimensions where we kind of get reunited with who we truly are, well, you would keep people in perpetual fear. So that's kind of just my thoughts about why the mass media is so fear-based. I think it's both on a physical reality of wanting to be able to control people here, but I think it's got something to do with our spiritual selves, which I got a feeling that people around the world are waking up to this fact and stuff. And if you want to keep the spirit stuck in this reality, this very thick, sludgy reality where like things have physical hardness and like ghosts can like pass through walls, or you call them ghosts, and some, light being angels, whatever you want to call things. They're technically operating in a realm outside of our frequency to be able to pass through objects that are seemingly solid to us, right? So if indeed we were able to ascend to those levels and operate in possibly multiple dimensions at once, we would have to be the farthest away from fear, which is the lowest vibrational frequency, and move as high as we can into the joyous realms or the joyous frequencies, and be doing what we're passionate about, what we love, and be fully expressive of love in our lives. So, it's just a thought. This is kind of like why I think the mass media is perpetually demonstrating that everything is fearful, and you have to fear for your life at all times and be very, very huddled, very withdrawn from life and stuff. So anyways, that's the thought of the day. Enjoy the rest of yours. Bye. Just a quick afterthought. Look into how to raise your vibration. It's very interesting stuff, and it'll make you definitely change your life. I promise you it'll make you feel different, and I can almost guarantee, I do guarantee, that you will attract different situations into your lives, whether or not you believe in it. If you raise your frequency, you raise your emotional responsive level and stuff, even on a physical level, different chemicals will fire in your brain, but I got a feeling you'll also attract different circumstances to your lives. So, see ya!
Think about it. How would you keep a person from moving forward and achieving happiness in their lives? Keep them in a constant state of fear of everything from changing jobs to opening up to the possibilities of loving someone to pursuing anything that they actually want because of any risk, whether real or imagined. A fear of the big bad world and its inhabitants that are constantly out to get them. A constructed reality where the mice are afraid to move for anything besides fulfilling their most base desires required for survival. You cannot control and awaken people. Without risking something, you will gain nothing. What ifs never make it to the arena. Arise and grow beyond previous limits. See you at the top.
BAM!